Please prepare yourselves for the nerdiest brag of all time. I was the Ricky Williams of the 2001-2002 University of Texas debate squad. Oh, good. We've determined the overlap between the corner audience and the college football fans in the Venn diagram. So by that, I wish I could say that I had superior forensics capabilities, but actually the analogy is probably more apt because we shared similar consumptive habits. Okay, that's an even smaller Venn diagram of the folks who get that joke. So 2001 and 2002 was my second senior year at the University of Texas. I had stayed around because I had an extra year of debate eligibility. I had a fairly substantial scholarship to do so. I had a very small, in fact, minimal course load. That minimal course load allowed me to go to class only on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I seldom went anyway. I also had an apartment in Austin, Texas in the early 2000s, which was pretty sweet. So I also had a lot of free time. I also had a sidekick for this adventure. The sidekick's name was Kip. Kip was loud, he was brash, he was rude. Actually, Kip was kind of an asshole. I mean, a good asshole, also a bad asshole, but also a good asshole. So maybe give you a hint of who Kip was, and I'll ask my wife the question of whether there is anybody else in my life amongst my friends who you would less like me to spend time with than Kip. So that's my wife. Kip's not a great guy, but he was my sidekick for this year, and given the amount of free time we had and our propensity to engage in Ricky Williams-like activities, we created a lot of cool things. One of those things was what we called Pop Twice. Adam, what's Pop Twice? I'm glad you asked. So, are you familiar with Pop Ice, the popsicles that are in plastic tubes? Yep. So, if you take two flavors of Pop Ice and eat them at the same time, pop twice. Patent pending. Another thing that Kip and I did, we had for a month a Fry Daddy, which meant that we consumed all of our food out of the Fry Daddy. Why did we only have the Fry Daddy for 1 month? Well, the answer to that question is, when you're making fried ice cream, you got to do a few more steps than just taking a scoop of ice cream and throwing it in the Fry Daddy. So that was the end of the Fry Daddy. But our piece de resistance, our opus, was a little trick, something that we pulled on our friends that we called hoots. So here's how hoots went. Usually we'd be on our couch, Ricky Williamsing it up with a friend, and Kip would get up all of a sudden with no announcement, no basis to say, I got to get out of here. And, when someone says, I got to get out of here, that usually prompts the question, where are you going? And Kip would say, I cannot tell you, I have to get out of here. So when you're the guy who's on the couch left after your friend has just left, you usually get the question, where's Kip going? So at this point I would say, I don't know. I can't tell you. He'd be really mad if I told you. And so Kip, was gone, and the person would really be intrigued at this point. So they'd ask me, no, seriously, where's Kip going? And so we had this fairly well timed out. At about 2.5 minutes out, I would give in. And I'd say, look, I'll tell you, but you have to promise me that you won't tell anybody else, and you won't tell Kip that I told you. He's going to Hoots. Well, that would prompt the question, what is Hoots? Thank you. So I would say, well, God, I really shouldn't tell you. Hoots is a whistling institute. Hoots, by the way, is spelled W-H-O-O-T-S. So I would let on that Kip was going to his whistling institute because he was really self-conscious about the way that he whistled. This story would have many iterations in which we would say that Kip wasn't able to whistle with anybody other than the kindergartners or the first graders. He was in remedial classes. About 5 minutes in, Kip would show up, angry that we had let this on. So we had many different tellings of this story. Recently, trying to figure out how I would end this story, I Googled Hoots. And I'll be damned, but there's presently a business in Austin, Texas called Hoots. And I clicked on the link. It's a whistling institute. No, it's not. I'm just bullshitting you.